Srinivasan had grown old. The world around him had changed faster than he ever imagined. The noise had faded. The rush was gone. Life had become quiet. He had lived well through struggles, responsibilities, and small, silent victories. And now, all that remained were memories. Some made him smile, some stayed untouched. But the ones he never returned to were from his school days, not because they hurt, but because they meant everything. Every time his granddaughter came visiting from the United States, she would ask him the same question again and again, with a curiosity that never seemed to fade. She would look at him with a smile and say, "Grandpa, will you take me to your school this time?" He would smile back, gently avoiding the question, shifting the conversation, as if protecting something delicate. But this time, she held his hand and insisted, "This time you can't say no." And after a brief silence, he looked at her, nodded softly, and said, "All right, let's go." Some journeys are not planned, they are accepted. As they stepped into the school compound, she saw buildings, classrooms, children running around. Just another ordinary day. But for him, nothing about it was ordinary. The present slowly began to dissolve, and the past quietly took its place. The bright uniforms around him faded into worn out shots of another time. The sound of vehicles disappeared, replaced by the stillness of bicycles lined neatly in a corner. Teachers in modern attire transformed into men in spotless white dhoti and shirts. He was no longer an old man visiting a school. He was a boy, standing once again at the beginning of his life. And then something stopped him. A black and white group photograph hung near the office wall. He walked towards it slowly, almost hesitantly, as if approaching something sacred. His eyes scanned the faces. One by one, faces he had not seen in decades, yet had never forgotten. His teachers, his headmaster, the men who had shaped him when he had nothing. His throat tightened, his eyes filled. He tried to steady himself, but the emotions rose faster than he could contain them. The past didn't just return, it overwhelmed him. These were not just memories, these were the people who had built his life. His granddaughter noticed him standing there, lost, his eyes moist, his expression heavy with something she could not fully understand. She gently held his arm and asked softly if he was all right. Without waiting for an answer, she guided him away, slowly, carefully, as if protecting him from something fragile. She led him to the corner of the playground, where a large banyan tree stood, strong, silent, unchanged through time. Beneath it was a small platform. She made him sit there, beside her, and quietly wiped the tears that had rolled down his cheeks. He sat there for a moment, gathering himself, looking around at the school, the ground, the tree, as if reconnecting with something within. Then he spoke, slowly, his voice carrying both weight and warmth. "This school is special to me, not because of these buildings or this playground, but because of the teachers and the headmaster who shaped my life. Let me share my memories with you." And just like that, the past began to speak. Raghurman sir, the mathematics teacher, was a man every student feared. With his sharp features and piercing eyes, he commanded attention the moment he entered the classroom. On days when he came freshly shaved, which was rare in those times, the fear in the room would quietly double. No one questioned why, but everyone felt it. He would draw circles on the blackboard so perfectly that even a compass would seem unsure of itself. And then he would turn, look at the students, and say in his firm voice, "Mandu, if you master your tables 13, 17, 18, numbers will never trouble you in life." They learned out of fear. But years later, that same fear transformed into confidence. Those very lessons stayed with him, guiding him through a career in finance, shaping a future he had never imagined as a boy. Life outside the classroom. however, was far from easy. His mother waited every day with hope that he would complete his studies and bring some stability into their lives. His father struggled constantly, chasing success that always seemed just out of reach. There were no books for him, no extra resources, no comfort, and yet, during those 40 minutes of mathematics class, none of that existed. Hunger disappeared, worries faded. He listened with complete attention, absorbing every word. Those 40 minutes were not just lessons in numbers, they were lessons in focus, in resilience, in staying present even when life was uncertain. Murugesan sir, the physical education teacher, saw something in him, a spark, a possibility. He encouraged him to play football, guided him, and even believed that sports could open a path for him in life. But what stayed with him forever was not the encouragement. It was something much quieter. After matches, refreshments were given to players and the coach. Murugesan sir would take his share, and without making it obvious, he would pass it on to him. He himself would eat the food he had brought from home, ensuring that this boy, who often went hungry, had something more to eat. He never spoke about it, never made it visible, but for a hungry child, that silent act of kindness meant everything. Nagraj Iyer, the headmaster, was a man no student could escape. He knew every student by name, every habit, every weakness. His presence extended beyond the school walls. Even in the evenings, whether near the temple, the library, or the marketplace, students feared being seen by him because if he saw them doing something they shouldn't, they would hear about it the very next day. He would often say, if you get through these years, from 13 to 22, with good habits and discipline, nothing can spoil your life later. At that time, it felt strict, even unfair. But standing there now, decades later, Srinivasan knew those habits had carried him through life. And then came the day that almost changed everything. He stood outside the school office, trembling. He had not paid his school fees, not his examination fees. The clerk had told him clearly if he did not pay 10 rupees by the end of the month, he would not be allowed to write his 10th standard exam. 10 rupees. For the world, it was a small amount. But for him, it was his future. He and his mother tried everything, requesting, borrowing, doing whatever small work they could find. But by the final day, they had managed only 5 rupees. That morning, he left home without eating, walking from place to place, asking, hoping, not knowing where to go next. Hours passed, hunger grew, exhaustion set in, but the fear of losing a year kept him moving. When he finally returned home, tired and defeated, his mother stood there waiting with the full amount. Somehow, his father had managed to send the money. Without wasting a moment, he took it and ran. 5 kilometers without stopping. His legs ached, his breath grew heavy, his body weakened, but hope pushed him forward. By the time he reached the school, it was already over. The gates were quiet, and just as he stood there, trying to catch his breath, he saw the headmaster coming out with his cycle. He rushed towards him, gasping, holding out the money, saying he had brought it. The headmaster looked at him and said, almost casually, you have missed the train, my boy. You will have to wait for the supplementary exam. In that moment, everything broke. The hunger, the running, the effort, the hope. All of it collapsed at once. He burst into tears, unable to hold himself together. The headmaster watched him for a moment, then stepped closer. He gently placed his hand on the boy's back, a simple pat, filled with understanding. And then, in a softer voice, he said, take my name, go to the office, and pay. And just like that, a life moved forward. The story slowly came to an end beneath the banyan tree. The past settled, the present returned, and silence filled the space between them. His granddaughter sat beside him, now understanding not just the story, but the man. She gently wiped the tears from his face and said softly, I am sorry, Grandpa. I made you cry. He looked at her, a faint smile through his tears, and replied, No, beta, you made me remember the people who made me. They were strict, but thoughtful, disciplined, but deeply humane. They did not just teach lessons from books, they built lives. In a world where knowledge is now everywhere, available at the touch of a screen, he had something far greater. Books were his only source, and teachers were everything else. They did not just prepare him for exams, they prepared him for life. And that is why the lessons they gave him never left him.